It is probably around 11 to something, but unlike the times before, I'm just up. I didn't previously go to sleep and wake up at 11. Yeah, it's 11:57. Unlike the other diary logs as well, I don't really have anything specific that I wanted or planned to talk about. It just felt like a good time to check in, and I feel like sometimes I just need to talk, and at some point during the word unraveling, word spillage, word vomit, something will come out that makes sense, that is of value in some way, shape, or form. I have the urge to partake in the devil's lettuce. I told myself that I was going to take a break from it today, and now I'm feeling the urge to partake, probably mainly because it does make me talkative, and it does seem to help me line up my thoughts coherently. But I've also found that smoking weed doesn't give me the same things it used to. I think that's a good thing. I think that is showing me that I'm growing, or perhaps I just haven't found the right strand or something. But in the past, I wouldn't have even really looked into that. So, either way, I think even in my partaking, I'm being more conscious. My mind is telling me that it's gonna help me talk, that it's gonna help me get into the flow or whatever, and I can't rely on that to be true anymore. Sometimes the thought of partaking in something or smoking weed, oh, I can smoke and read, I can smoke and draw, and I paint this picture in my head of what I could possibly do, and then when I go to do it, it's nothing like how I imagined it. Of course, I had to switch cameras as soon as I started getting into something. So I've decided I will partake in the devil's lettuce. I have not yet. Truthfully, nowadays, I'm very much a one and done kind of gal. I've been very intentional with being conscious of when and how I partake in cannabis. I know that it can be a tool if we set the intention for it to be used that way. And I am aware that throughout my life, and when I had first began partaking in cannabinoids, etc., it was not used intentionally. It was not used as a tool for anything beneficial. It was just fun for a time, and then it also became a habit. Ultimately, I just want to make sure that I'm not using it to disregard my life, and I want to make sure that it doesn't get in the way of my priorities, especially now. I'd went at least a few months. I'll say at least a month, because sometimes time feels way longer than it actually was. It felt like a few months. Felt like a few months. It may have been at least a month to 2 months. I felt like I was getting to the point where I could have those like one-off smoke sessions and not feel like I would crave it afterwards or go overboard, essentially. So I purchased this with the intention that it would be for those one-off times where I just want a little something. But I have found that if it is around, it seems to become more than just the one-off times. However, I have been sticking to being conscious and not going overboard with the consumption, staying present throughout the experience, and not using it to numb or hide anything from myself. So, I don't mind. I actually find that I like the experience of being sober, and oftentimes I have to remind myself that I'm sober because I often do feel that natural high, the feelings, the perspectives that I used to contribute or attribute to the effect I got when I would smoke. I'm finding that I think that's just me. It's just me. I do have my retainer in, and I'm always aware of how it affects how I speak. So I figured I would address that in case you also are wondering why it sounds like I have a lisp or something. I don't know if you can tell. I can't tell. Yeah, I can't really tell. Look at those curls. I still have not smoked. I'm glad that it's not a compulsory sort of thing. And I'm getting really good at like observing the thoughts that come up for certain dopamine pleasures, like cannabis and or sweets, and food in general, truthfully. The little niggling thoughts in the back of, or not even in the back, it's pretty front and center, but the thoughts that come up and arise, like, oh, you know, it'd be nice to smoke right now. Yeah, you could do that. Maybe we'll add a nice vibe to it. We could like vibe. And again, sometimes it sounds like a good idea, but I'm also aware now that it's just been such a part of my life that that's probably why that thought arises. But I also have to accept that weed affects me differently now. You know, I'm not the same person that I was when I started, when I got into cannabinoids and all that. Yeah, it has a different effect. It's a different effect, and really sometimes I just want something like mellow, you know, something really mellow to where I just feel, you know, just slightly above sober. I don't really want much more than that. And I've just found that weed, it hits different nowadays. It really does. And it's not just like, oh, the weed is stronger. It affects me differently. I understand that this is a medicine, you know, it can be a medicine, and it has more purposes than just soothing. I think that it can also bring a lot to the surface. I make an intentional decision to be very conscious about acknowledging what it brings to the surface. It can be a tool if we allow it to be. I'm bundled up in 2 blankets because I'm sitting right in front of the open back door and it's cold. It is quite cold. I wish I had planned more about what I was going to talk about. This sort of honestly just feels like a hangout session, you know? I more and more feel like when I do this, when I talk to you, I truly do feel like I'm not alone in this moment. And of course I do believe, you know, that it's that sort of entanglement of past, present, and future, you know, because whenever this reaches whoever is watching, it really is like we're not alone. And I like the thought of that. I like that we can sort of make each other not feel alone. So if you partake in cannabinoids and or just want a companion for right now, here we are, you know. Feel free to spark up with me or draw with me or just be. That's okay too. That's perfectly okay. That is more than enough. Whatever you choose to do, I'm thankful for you spending this time with me, for us sharing this time together. I don't know if I'm allowed to show it on camera. I feel like the last time I tried to do that, YouTube fucking banned me or something. Obviously they didn't ban me, but they did something. They took the damn video down and I didn't appreciate it because I actually liked it. So I'm gonna be careful. I've returned. Truthfully, I wish this light wasn't so freaking bright. It was good at first, but I'm not really liking it anymore. There is a sense of slight guilt that comes up now at times when I smoke, especially at a time like today when I set the intention not to. And part of me just wants to throw it away. You know? Part of me just wants to throw it away. Because I feel like when I do it and then I don't have the experience that I had imagined that I would be having, all the reasons why I shouldn't have done it, quote unquote, begin to arise. All the reasons I told myself that I was gonna take a break from it. Like they sort of are now. But at the same time, I do trust myself. I do trust myself. But I guess most addicts probably say that, you know. I trust myself not to do too much, not to go overboard. Yeah, a lot of people do say that. And I think I should acknowledge that I do have a slightly addictive personality. Yeah. I feel like I'm realizing in some aspects how maybe in part my mind likes to compartmentalize. I don't think that was the word I meant to say. Compartmentalize. Spiritual bypassing. That's what I wanted to say. I get caught up in the quote unquote, this is the spiritual aspect of being human. How what you say, how what you think, how you feel, how it all has this energetic influence on the life and the present moments you are experiencing, how you experience them as well. And it's this interlocking feedback loop almost of the energy you put out being like brought back. And I do it like this, but I'm seeing it more like, like that. It was important that I started at the top, because this is like the start of the curve that is you inputting energy out. Okay, that was a weird, trying to do it with all 4 fingers was not working. That analogy makes sense to me. Obviously, I'm under the influence, so I'm not sure if that really made much sense articulated. I trust that it did. Even now, that guilt thought is arising again, but it's coming from my heart, it feels like. My heart is worried that I'm hindering my growth, because I don't feel like this is a valuable use of my time, and I feel like I'm at, again, a pinnacle moment, and maybe that's why these things are reaching out for the old comfort, and I feel like this is also something that I know happens. In previous videos, I've explained how throughout my healing journey thus far, I'm starting to recognize sort of the order in how this plays out. I'm being brought to the hero's journey in the tarot. The hero goes on this journey, and ends up at the world where the knowledge is acquired, the lessons are integrated, and we're going to this next chapter. And the journey starts over again, where the hero is now back again, the fool. Again, if you don't know the tarot, then this isn't gonna make a lot of sense, maybe, but anywho. It is so cold. I want to go inside. Okay. I am in the thought abyss. I'm in the thought abyss. Everything is coming up. And I'm not looking away from it. I think my thing is, I'm not completely sure what is true. Which thoughts I should listen to. It's probably a mixture, but that still is like, you still have to decipher it, which is which. And I think I may try to go over it too quickly. I'm not gonna lie, having a camera to talk to makes this so much more enjoyable, because it does feel like I am not alone. because I'm definitely feeling it. And this is way more than like just a mellow. But I also have to be honest. I took a bit of an extra drag. Usually I'm like a one and done, as I've said, but I took a pretty good first one and then a little extra. And I guess because I have been partaking semi-regularly for the past couple weeks or so, I always feel like, oh, your tolerance is probably going up or something. No, it doesn't feel like it. But I also think it is in part to what I do believe is like, the channeling aspect of this. And maybe I'm just channeling myself. I'm channeling the deeper aspects of me that try to hide. Yeah, that try to hide in the shadows. Maybe that's how I've been using it. And I never really actualized that, like, consciously. I like being in a state where I can confront these things with what it feels like is a higher perspective. No pun intended. And maybe, again, it is like a little bit of both. Maybe it does give me a higher perspective. But again, the goal is, if you're going to use it as a tool for that, you have to bring what you see somehow from this higher perspective back down to the sober moments when you are grounded. Take what it is that you find here and bring it to earth, bring it to the ground, integrate it, so that it's not only something you see when you're high. Okay, maybe not that part, but again, all that to say, I'm hoping that this is something of actual value, at least to me. At least to me. Confronting these thoughts or looking at them, being honest about them, because again, before this, there probably would have been, I would have just been in my head. Yeah, it's almost like flashing them with like a flashlight, It's like, oh, there you are, that freaking thought. And you like see it clearly. Shining the light of consciousness. I know that's, it's like I'm not gonna say an art thing, but it's a something. I know. It's a quote or something where you bring the light of consciousness onto things, And of course I'm seeing that painting, in my head where there's like the figure is holding on to this guy and its face is just light, and the guy is like, but the figure has like a grasp of him. So it looks almost like he's pulling away, but can't really look. And this is where using the tool to talk isn't always conducive. I don't want to bypass them. I don't want to bypass the right ones. Maybe if all of this is coming up, maybe it's true kind of thing. I have realized that I can confuse intuition with anxiety. But in this case, I do feel it's a bit of both. It is both. Both that I feel that I don't really need to be doing this. There's just better uses of my time, I understand that. But I'm also, human being. And no, it seems beyond that. Beyond just being a human being. It's like I know better. Yeah. Maybe Maybe this is my body's way of telling me something's feeling afraid. Maybe it's anxiety. Or maybe it's just... You know what? That may be what it is. I am just going to choose. I'm gonna choose. I'm gonna choose in this moment for myself to just let go of the guilt. Okay? I don't know. It's not doing anything right now. It's not doing anything of purpose. Now, it is what I will do with this understanding that there clearly is some part of me that feels in some way I am wrong for doing this. It's not that I'm wrong, but maybe there's better actions that I can choose. Yeah, there's better actions that I feel better about. But I don't always try to. I keep going back to this one because it's familiar, but I'm not getting the same pleasure out of it because I don't interact with it in the same ways I used to. Weed, cannabis is sort of like a psychedelic. It is. And I think that's why when I try and use it intentionally, and then I'm being brought up and faced with like a lot of real stuff, like I'm very conscious of how this is affecting me, and I'm sure there's multiple factors in why I'm feeling what I am right now. I can't just smoke and then binge YouTube like I used to. Because back then it was like I was clearly trying to escape with it, and that's not what I'm wanting. These are like psychedelic experiences practically. Yeah, you're fucking altered. You're altered. I've partaken in shrooms quite a many times. Not recently, but like I feel like like this is 2 puffs, 2.5, or not 2.5, 1.5 puffs of cannabis. And I feel like this is on par with the intensity of an experience that I would have if I was doing mushrooms or something like that. The higher perspective thing, the whole body effect. And I think that's also something I don't prefer from cannabis. I like the head high, where I can just get the higher perspective. When it starts affecting my body, that's when it's less enjoyable. And this is definitely something that it's not just a head high, it's a body high too. I had done like research trying to be conscious about what I got this time, in terms of like, I'm gonna go in with a sort of clearer view on what I'm looking for from the experience instead of just, oh, it's weed kind of thing. I know I like sativa because, again, not a body high kind of person. So I knew I liked sativa, and that was like about it to my knowledge. This time I wanted to be a bit more conscious and actually look up what does what in terms of like terps and whatever else. Yeah, and the specific terp that I was looking for, he told me was like one of the rarest ones. But yeah, and the specific strand or whatnot that I found that, all these quizzes I was taking was saying would be the best for what I specifically wanted to experience. Okay, I'm back. I was talking about terps and stuff. But yeah, I found a specific strand that was continuously popping up when I looked for the specific things that I wanted. I was just thinking, on one of the websites where I was looking up where I could get it nearby, it said that Or at least I thought it said that I could get it at the place I usually go to for this kind of stuff. But when I got there, they didn't have exactly what I was looking for. So I was trying to take recommendations, and the guy who was giving me the recommendation clearly stated that he was into indica, so his experience with the particular options were going to be through that lens and his enjoyment. And he recommended this, and he said specifically as an indica preferer, he liked this one. And I was going to go with it anyway because it was, you know, the price range that I was looking for, but it was not the elevation that I was looking for at all. And I knew that since the first time. And I only realized after the fact, reflecting on that conversation, that no wonder he liked this. It's very body high-ish. It's very indica-esque. And now I know I really don't like that. I think I've already known that, but especially when, I haven't done it in a while and I'm like dipping my toe back in and then I'm having experiences like this, of course it's gonna be like, oh yeah, maybe I just shouldn't be doing this. And maybe I shouldn't, Like, there's a lot that I want to do nowadays. There's a lot I want to get done. And honestly, I don't think more recently it's been in the way, like getting in the way of me actually doing things of that sort. Completely. But, or not but. However, I also feel like I needed a better match as well. And maybe, again, wasn't supposed to be like a habit thing. It was just supposed to be like one-off occasions. And that is not how it's been. I know myself well enough. I know myself well enough that I have to be conscious. I have to be conscious of this. I have to be very conscious. These aren't habits I want to re-solidify. And if that's the case, I have to be aware that this is becoming a habit. Okay. This is becoming a habit. And honestly, like, time and days, like, get so, like, smushed and jumbled. I know, I believe that I definitely did smoke yesterday. I don't know, maybe it makes me feel better about myself. And I'm talking about it, I'm verbalizing it, and bringing it up from the surface, So it can't just hide in the back. But then you gotta do stuff about it. You gotta do something about it. You bring it to the surface, you gotta do something about it. That is when the knowledge becomes wisdom, when it gets turned into action. Knowing is half the battle. Then you gotta do. You gotta do. And I think I've already had the understanding. And I guess, again, I'm a human, so my brain goes, oh, I'm different now. I can just have a little dabble. I will be honest. The first couple times I did it, I immediately knew that I didn't like the high. I didn't prefer it. It was just too much. It's too much for me. Like, it takes me too far elevated to where things are getting jumbled, instead of being, getting a higher perspective. Yeah, like, because I have had experiences with weed where I can smoke it and, again, things get a little clearer. And it's not that things aren't clear, but the body high of it jumbles things up. Because I don't know, it's like my body is also high, and I don't like that. I just want my head to be high. My mind, I don't need my body, feeling like gloop as well. For the most part, I'm good with not binging while partaking in cannabis, but I think there just have been moments recently where I just have been overeating. I don't think most of them were when I was high, but truthfully, I cannot remember. Feels like it's only getting more intense. This is not what I was looking for at all. Because I remember there was a time where I would smoke THC cartridges, and I remember I could smoke and still feel very energized, have a lot of energy, actually. I had a lot of energy. It didn't make me like sluggish, or it didn't like weigh down my body. But I find when I smoke like herbs, like the actual leaf, it feels a lot more concentrated in the body, or I notice it a lot more in my body, as well as with edibles. But that's like, of course, it's literally going through your body. It's getting metabolized, and transformed even more through your body composition and all that. So no wonder you're gonna feel it in your body. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, I'm definitely not an indica person. I mean, I don't, yeah. I think there's also the energy part of it. Like, getting high and being in a house is different than getting high and being outside in the woods. Oh, I just, oh, I didn't want it to be this much, man. I just want like a little mellow thing. What made me want to even get the weed in the first place was that I had started making drinks. And I'm not a drinker. I don't really like drinking because of the effect that it has on your body, more so because you are ingesting alcohol and not so much how it makes my body feel. If I could get the effect of being drunk by not drinking, somehow, I actually don't mind that. Of course, I don't mind it. But yeah, I was starting to drink more than, than what is normal for me, which is nothing, not drinking at all. And I was realizing that I just get such an icky feeling ingesting alcohol. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I can get some, cannabis. And I trust myself that, I won't go overboard with it. And I don't think I've gone overboard recently. I think, I've been more balanced about it. Of course, the first couple times were not as conscious. Not as conscious. Uh, it's really only more enjoyable because I feel like I'm talking to somebody, and I feel like I can just be honest about how I'm feeling and, confront it, address it. I don't have to hide it. I don't have to hide it because I feel like the hiding of it made it even worse. And suddenly I feel like my chest is opening up as I'm like saying all this. Again, maybe this was what the medicine was doing. Again, it was bringing things up to the surface, and I think it's good that I've been acknowledging them. Even if this time is just for me, if this doesn't go on the internet or whatever. I don't know. This is nice. This is nice. It's just nice. And, truthfully, technically, I'm in my own company, but yet I don't feel alone. And maybe it's because, again, it's like, who knows you better than you? And when you can honestly look at yourself and be witnessed by somebody who is you, who is yourself, it's still nice. And it's not just that it's nice, it's that it's necessary for us to be able to witness ourselves. And it shouldn't take an intoxicant, a psychedelic, to do that, but you know, that is the effect that they have or can have. So the least I can do, at least, is acknowledge what it's bringing up. I like these colors. The boom, the blue, and the bonnet. Boom, 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 boom. This feels like the different sections of me. We have the feminine. We have the masculine. We have the soul spirit aspect. And then this. Maybe that's the... I want to call it the mask. But it's not the mask. Maybe it's the eyes which they all see through. The eyes which they all see through. The perspective. Or maybe it's a combination of all the aspects, as well as their individual viewpoints, all happening simultaneously. You know, it's like the middle section of a Venn diagram, but it's a tri-diagram. Tri-Venn diagram. Tri-Venn diagram. Yeah, a tri-Venn diagram. A tri-Venn diagram. Yeah. You're So Gay by Katy Perry, I think that's what the song is called, is playing in my head. That is a very particular song to resurface. I think it's because, but that's still, the trill came in my head, but that is a very odd song to resurface. I think it's arising because of my recent infatuation with Luke Manning from Shoot from the Hip. He definitely gives the person that song is talking about. I can definitely see him in that position. Well, this can't go on the internet. Yeah, I'm definitely attracted to talent. More than anything you can offer appearance-wise. Both? Oh. But I mean, I have a very, I have very wide range of taste, it seems. I think that's just because I just love humanity, you know? So when I'm around like a male in particular, like my genuine just love for people in general can like commingle and get confused for me actually really liking or, you know, like being interested in that person actually. Especially when there is, or when there are, intoxicants such as cannabis in the mix. I'm looking at my camera's battery. It's not blinking at me, so it should be fine. But it's getting low. It's getting low. Which I guess is understandable. I've probably been talking for at least an hour. Why does it look like that? I mean, it looks better than it did before. Not really. Hold on. Ugh! Does not look like a flattering angle. I now understand what it feels like to have a parasocial relationship. And I don't like this at all. I don't. I do not like this. I don't like being so interested and so attracted to somebody that I don't even like really know. I don't know them at all. Ugh, isn't that like so weird? Humans are so weird. It's kind of cool and really interesting when you can just observe it. But when you have to actually like deal with it and be in it, you know? Ugh, my lord. No wonder Sims are always like so grumpy. They're not always grumpy. They're only grumpy when they gotta pee and stuff like that. But my gosh, like, to me, the whole human experience is practically like Sims on steroids. That's really what it is, you know? And I mean, obviously, but specifically in the way that there is a bigger person, a bigger you, who is quote unquote controlling your actions. But in this case, it's more like, okay, yeah, Sims on steroids, but I don't know, like, probably like at least 100 times on steroids. The thing is, the Sim, I don't, obviously it's a game. There's no, it's a game. I don't think there's any way for the Sims to become sentient to the fact that they're in a game. And me, I created, this family. I created your child. I created their name. I created this house for you guys to live in, kind of thing. They'll never be able to become sentient to that, obviously. But we can. We, as our Sims, can become conscious to the other side of the screen, shall we call it. The other side of this game, the master controls. Like the list, sort of. When you have like the list on the side in some games where it will show you how to control A to jump, do this combo, and your sim will do this or whatever. Your fighting character. But if you just left your controller, the Sims will still do stuff. They'll still go about their lives. And I think, again, that is another similarity. But it's like Sims have no choice but to be controlled. Well, in our experience, we have more control than we think. And we just sort of blindly swim around like our, if you left your Sim to its own devices. All we have to do is kind of pick up the controller, It is within our control. And I think we toggle back and forth with like picking up the controller and then putting it down and picking up the controller and putting it down. I guess it would be nice at some points to have something else controlling your actions so that you don't really have to think about it. They tell you to go over here and paint. And you go and you just freaking paint. Or they just paint, It's funny because that's the way I always played The Sims. I would always want to make them like educated in the arts and make sure they practiced. You can see their little experience growing. Of course, it's a lot easier to do it in The Sims. But they also usually seem to be enjoying it. Sometimes they have very varying amounts of enjoyment. Yeah, it's just Sims on steroids. And obviously it's probably, or I at least believe it's most likely a lot larger than that. That even. It goes far beyond that, I'm sure. Far beyond that. Period. This is so not flattering angle. Oh, maybe I do desire companionship. I do feel like more and more I would like the experience of touch. I would like to be able to touch another human being. Not really in a sexual way, like, yeah, cuddling or whatever would be nice. But that's not really, it's just the experience, to be able to explore another person, touch another person with curiosity, It's like there's always boundaries between us as human beings. Like, imagine a world where, oh no. I mean, imagine a world where it's normal for strangers to hug, And I mean, obviously, if people don't want to hug, I don't know, they can hug, but maybe like, maybe this world can be, where people just offer other people hugs. No explanation, just like, hey, hug, and you just open your arms. You just open your arms, and they can just politely decline and say, sorry, I don't want to hug, And then you respect the person for not wanting a hug. And even though maybe a little disappointed, you still are happy to be alive, and you go to the next person, with your arms stretched out and hope that they want a hug. And I don't know, maybe you do that a couple times, and until somebody wants a hug. And maybe there's more people that want a hug in this world than the people that don't, Maybe there's more strangers in this world that would just randomly hug you, than there are those that wouldn't. And I think those are the types of people that I'm looking for. I don't know. I like the experience of being a human being. We put a lot of again, boundaries are great. Boundaries are great. Communication is great. Don't just walk up and touch people, all that stuff. But sometimes I wish we could just experience each other and leave it at that. We could just experience each other. I'm just so I don't know. I'm definitely I have voyeur-esque tendencies. I wanna know what's behind the mask that people put on. I wanna know what they're really like. I wanna see inside of them. And if I could do it secretly, I would. I would. If I could just know. And I'm sure if I meditated, I don't know, meditated enough, got to a point where I could just look at somebody and know exactly who they are. Just feel, yeah, you just look at them and read their energy, like opening a diary. I had a shamaness, do that to me, but I welcomed it. I often want to be read like a book. I like it when people can see beyond the mask. I want to be seen beyond the mask, sort of, Obviously, there's other parts that my awkward side, the part of me that, I don't know, man, the part of me that, I don't know if it's cool. It's cool to me. And I think I've just been so in my little bubble that certain times I wonder, I don't know. Yes, I do. I'm just not sure how to put it into words. When I'm around other people, the things that are normal for me, I become hyper-focused on. Because I'm aware not everybody sees life the way I do. interprets life the way I do. I'm still very much looking for a place. I don't really have a place outside of me that I call home. But I have found home inside of me. And I do believe that because I have found it inside of me, it is only inevitable that at some point it will be externalized. The external version will mirror that, will mirror what I've found inside of me. And that is the key to this level of sin. It's about consciously finding answers within, finding the things within, the love within, the understanding within that you want to experience. It's a co-creation. So you create the feeling, and then life sort of mirrors it back. Obviously, there's more factors to that mirror. Sometimes we have bad mirrors, broken mirrors, smeared mirrors, muggy mirrors, and they don't show back a clear view. But now your vision is tainted, Your mirror starts to overgrow with muck, stains. It would be very hard to fix a broken mirror in this scenario. I'm not sure what a broken mirror would look like in the real world in terms of this analogy of it being a perspective somebody can have. You see a broken mirror. Oh yeah, I'm getting an image of like smiling in a broken mirror, and even the smile is disjointed, which it just reflects back a very eerie sight. It's very hard. How do you smile in a broken mirror? How do you fix a perception like that? There are ways to fill in the cracks. It seems like it won't be, obviously again, it won't be the same, but the mirror will be whole again. It will be made new, and you will have multiple perspectives. That's the thing, and that's the gift, and that's the beauty, actually. There's a different way of even looking at the broken mirror. You can see the disjointedness. You can see that it's shattered. Or you can see the glimmering pieces and how they all still fit together and make one whole. I'm surprised my camera is still with us. I can already tell it's gonna be very awkward. It's gonna be very awkward when I don't have the camera on. This is bringing me a lot of comfort. It's bringing me a lot of comfort. It's really crazy. Oh, well, speak of the devil. There she is. My battery telling me she empty. She's not empty, or else we wouldn't be talking, but I guess it's that time. Here we are at the end of the fool's journey. What did we learn? We learned that we have more control than we think, and that each ending only leads to new beginnings, even for the broken mirror. It can be made into something new. There is an elevated point of view. You can choose what you see. Okay. Thank you. Thank you a lot. I've enjoyed this time, and I hope you did too. I did. Thank you. Bye. For now.